Hey everyone, this is Steli FD with Closeout, and in today's video we're going to talk about the idea that if you want to experiment with enterprise sales, if you're in a B2B startup and you're trying the enterprise market, it's at least a 2-year commitment. So you can't fuck around with it, and if you do it, you need to do it right, and we'll talk about how to do it right and how to do it wrong. Here's why I wanted to talk about this and record a quick video on it. I recently was on a beautiful boat in the Mediterranean Sea, and I was talking to an investor who had put a bunch of money in a startup that was doing some really powerful technology stuff, some really good shit. And that startup originally, like the founding team is very technical, but has no kind of B2B experience, especially no enterprise sales experience. And they developed this cool little technology, and they presented it at an event, and they had a number of large enterprise people and potential customers approach them and offer them or show interest in their technology. Hence, what did they do? The very first that approached them was a company that was using SAP and wanted them to build their product or their technology on top of SAP so that that large company could utilize it and use it internally. What did that small kind of 4-person startup do? Well, they got excited, they high-fived each other, and they went, well, it seems like large corporations that use SAP have a big need for this. Let's maybe try it out and see what happens. Now, that investor was telling me that he was concerned that they maybe jumped too quickly on the enterprise sales and enterprise sales for SAP customer bandwagon, and was saying how he was encouraging them to run a number of experiments in parallel to see maybe there are companies that use Salesforce or Oracle. Maybe there are better platforms to build their business on top of. Maybe they should look into the end consumer potential of their business because the technology they used could be utilized in many different use cases and could reach even potentially end consumers in a large quantities. So there was a lot of debate on a strategic level which direction to take. And what did those founders do in the early days is what a lot of founders do, is that they leaned because they didn't trust, they're not experienced enough to trust their own gut, and they don't have expertise or experience in a specific field to know what their strengths are and to focus on that. And this is the case for most founders. What do they do then instead? Most founding teams, they lean on doing what the highest level of authority is telling them, right? So if an investor with lots of money tells them, you need to go into the mobile space, they're going to convince themselves that that's probably a good idea, and they're going to lean into becoming a mobile-focused company. If then a large corporation comes to them and tells them, you need to be more of a, whatever, SAP player, because we're going to give you millions of dollars if you do so, they're going to lean on being an SAP player and going down the enterprise route with large corporations. If, you know, and I could go on and on and on. If some CEO of, you know, the last unicorn in Silicon Valley sends them an email and tells them, I think I would like to, I think, you know, you'd be perfect for our platform, you know, and you should be part of our ecosystem, they're going to lean that way, right? They're going to go wherever the wind of the strongest authority blows. And this is, to a certain degree, a criticism, right? To myself as a previous founder that has made this mistake way too many times, more than the usual founders. I was particularly slow at learning this lesson. But it's also just a matter of reality and fact, right? Most kind of inexperienced startup teams, they'll go wherever the highest level of authority tells them, that gives them a signal that that might be the right direction. And they won't really critically compare all their options before they commit to one, and they won't kind of have the level of self-awareness to know what their true competitive internal advantage is, what is a game they can play to win versus just playing it to play, and how are these decisions going to long-term completely transform and affect the type of business and the type of life that they're going to live. But independently from that discussion, I wanted just to touch on that. And I've talked previously, and we'll link up to this in this video and this blog post, I've talked previously about how I made the mistake of falling to the profitable enterprise trap, or how I almost closed Intuit, Oracle, and a bunch of other massive Fortune 500 companies as clients. and how that didn't turn out that well for me as a tiny startup with no money, no funding, and no experience in enterprise sales. So there's a lot of mistakes I've made in the past that flow into this, but the discussion I had with the investor was much more interesting than just that. So he told me about this, he told me about some of the advice he gave them, and how he was basically advising them for them to figure out which route to commit on and what to focus on, right? So one of his ideas was they should do an outbound email campaign and experiment and send a few thousand emails and see, a few thousand emails to Salesforce customers, a few thousand emails to Oracle customers. And then based on the response, maybe they'll realize that there's another market that has a much more interest. I was not that convinced that this is a good idea. Because you can't run too many experiments at once, and sending an email like that, if you don't write a great email, could give you results that are really poor, but the poor performance of the results could just be the result of a poor written email or bad lead data versus showing that there's no interest in the market. So that's one. And the other thing is that what if they get a little bit of interest? Now they're going to be even more fucked. Now they get 2 large companies that want to work with him on Oracle, 2 large companies that want to work with him on Salesforce, 2 large companies that want to work with him with SAP. And they're a tiny team of 4 people. They really don't have millions in the bank. They can't focus on all of this. It's actually going to get them into real trouble, right? So running too many crazy experiments all at once in the enterprise world is not that good of an idea, because the problem running kind of rapid fire experiments and doing aggressive customer development and doing lots of little tests and pilots and experiments to figure out what the right road is to go down to in the enterprise world is that the results will take a massive amount of time, right? To really understand if something worked in the enterprise world, it's going to take you 12 to 18 months with a customer. That's a massive time commitment. So if you run 1,000 different experiments with 1,000 different things, it's just going to make it so much harder. Your commitment level is so long. It's going to take you 5, 6, 7 years to figure out what really is going on and what works and what doesn't. With the exception if you have a ton of experience, a ton of funding and money in the bank, and a massive team and infrastructure to execute on these things on that level. But if you have 4 engineers and you just got a first MVP of a technology, going down that route and thinking you're going to do rapid fire experiments with lots of different sizes of enterprise customers is only going to get you in trouble, because once you got all the data, it's probably going to be too late for you to pivot, change, or put those learnings and insights into practice, right? So I really advise that investor to not pollute their judgment and give them even more things to worry about. And we talked about the SAP play and how to play that well and truly understand that if they don't have any experience in the enterprise world and they want to go down that route, it's a big commitment. They can't just test this a little bit. They're all in or all out. You can't do enterprise sales a little bit, just like you can't be pregnant a little bit, right? Are they really, really ready to commit themselves and their startup for the next 2 years to the enterprise route? Because it's going to take them that long to figure out if this is working or not. 2 years is a long time, especially for people that have 0 experience in the enterprise world. They're going to have to learn the ABCs of enterprise sales and corporate speak, and how to navigate these massive deals, how to hire people from that world, how to build a structure, brand in that world, how to attract investors. It's going to be a really steep learning curve. It's true in every vertical because these guys are not experienced. They're right out of school and they're technical. But in the enterprise world, the learning curve is even a little steeper, I would say, especially because it takes so much longer to get real results, right? You think, oh, we got 5 companies to agree they want to do a pilot with us. That means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. You can get a bunch of big companies to get excited about a technology because you spoke at some event. It is something, but it's not much. It really isn't. You can get even a bunch of large enterprises to agree to do a pilot with you. That again is a little bit more than just them liking you, but it's not yet confirmation that you have product market fit. Even getting them to do paid pilots, which is what I would advise you to do. Never do anything free in the enterprise world. Never ever do anything for free in the enterprise world. I hope that's clear enough. But even with a paid pilot, that's great. That's better than a free pilot, better than just them verbally telling you that they're interested. But even that doesn't mean anything, because to convert a pilot to a long-term contract and then to convert a contract, them purchasing the product, to them actually fully implementing the product and getting success and value out of it and being a case study, a testimonial, and true proof that what you're selling is solving a large enterprise's, a large organizational problem in a way that you can sell, market, and replicate. That success, you can replicate that. That's another step. And to go from initial interest to pilot to purchase to prove and to testimonial and case study and prove that they are successful. They're getting a lot more value from your solution than what you're paying them, what they're paying you, and they realize that. To go from that, that's a massive time frame. Not even to count all the time it's going to take you from initial interest to sell them on a pilot. That alone could take 6 to 9 months. It's a massive amount of time for you to get some amount of data back of if what you're doing is working or not. You need to be willing to take that risk. It's a massive risk, right? Once you're willing to take that, you need to be all in. At least for the period of time you've committed to yourself. You go into the enterprise world, you go all in for 2-3 years. You go all in, all chips are in. You do it like the Box guys did, where the founders, they were young kids and they were like in the end consumer world. They were building a product for the end consumer world. And then once they realized that lost that battle and they committed themselves to the enterprise battle, the CEO, Aaron, was like reading enterprise books, meeting with enterprise CEOs and executives and salespeople, and just soaking in the enterprise knowledge that's out there to get himself to be really, really good at it. All of a sudden, his hair turned gray. I don't know if it's because of that, but it was a convenient coincidence. And he started wearing nice shirts and jackets, and he just became an enterprise CEO. And he did it really, really well. Heads off to him. Something most people won't be able to do, especially most young people won't be able to do that successfully, nearly as successfully as he has. But he went all in, not just a little bit. Once they went in the enterprise route, he was all in, surrounding himself with the enterprise world, soaking it up, embracing it, becoming it. That's the same thing you have to do once you decide you want to go down that route. Many, many startups go down the enterprise route because they either struggle in the end consumer world or they get a little bit of inbound interest. Don't step into that trap. That little interest might be meaningful. In many cases, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you should change completely your plans on what you're doing. Once you decide, yes, we want to go down the enterprise route and we're fully committed, and we're committed for a long period of time, fully embrace it. Find investors that are great in that world. Find advisors that are great in that world. Hire people that are amazing in that world, that come from the corporate enterprise world, that understand that world, and fully commit yourself to that route. Do your research, but do it 360, right? Don't just, if you do SAP research, if you want to, like, let's say you want to figure out, should we build on top of the SAP platform and go after SAP customers, right? If that's a question that you have, do 360 research, right? Don't just talk to that one customer and believe them and go build everything for them. Try to figure out, can we get more customers that are on SAP that are interested in this? That's one route. The other thing you can do is you can go and say, can I talk to people that work at SAP, executives at that company, tell them about what we're building and see if they also agree that we are a natural fit for their customers and their platform. So get advice and get feedback and do research with SAP employees. Then go to SAP consultancies and show them what you're doing and tell them, hey, you're implementing, you're in the thick and thin of it every single day in the trenches with the clients, actually implement SAP, customizing it for them. Here's what we are building. Here's the customer that is telling us that they need what we have on top of SAP. What do you guys think? What's your advice? What's your input? What's your feedback? So get advice from the consultants and the ecosystem within that platform. Then go and talk to other startups that have tried to sell into the SAP world, other companies that have done it successfully and unsuccessfully, and try to learn from their mistakes, their experiences. Go and talk to other B2B startups that built technologies and sold them on top of SAP. Go and meet with them and say, hey, we're trying to build something. We're trying to decide if we should do it on top of SAP. What do you think? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Should we go down that route? What are some mistakes you hope you would have known about and didn't commit to in the past? What are some of the things that were really costly? Just learn from other people's experience. Go and talk to, okay, of course you can talk to some competitors. Go to Oracle, go to Salesforce and see what do they think, what kind of response you get there. I could go on, but my whole point is try to get a full sense for the ecosystem and don't just talk to one customer and take their word for it, right? Try to really do extensive research and really surround yourself and fully embrace that world to gain understanding and insights if you want to commit your company and its success and its future to this platform and this market and this vertical, right? The enterprise game is an all-in game. The enterprise game is a slow game because decisions take so long to make. Because decision takes so long to make, because change is so slow in large enterprise environments, once you're committing to it, you can't just do it a little bit. You can't just be in with your big toe. You have to jump in full force and kind of envelope yourself in that world. You need to understand what timelines we're talking about. You're committing yourself for the next 2 or 3 years, not for the next 2 or 3 months. You need to be all in on it. And that's the most important thing you need to understand. Are you ready to make that commitment? If yes, best of luck, go get them. But if you're unsure, rather take, another month or 2 to do a little bit more research, do a little bit more soul searching before you commit to something mindlessly just because you're getting interest from large organizations. There's lots and lots of business development people out there, there's lots of employees of large enterprise 500 companies. The whole job is to find new interesting concepts and bring them in for initial conversations and discussions. They're not risking the future of their business or the future of their career doing this, but you do. So you need to be really, really, really serious about the enterprise game if you want to go into it. I wasn't with my very first startup 10 years ago when I arrived in Silicon Valley. I was down the end consumer route, and then Google and Intuit and a bunch of big companies showed some interest, and I got distracted. We got initial easy traction, and I thought, wow, this enterprise thing isn't that hard, right? What is everybody else saying? We were a 2-person startup with no funding and no experience in the enterprise world, and we're like, this shit isn't that hard. Turned out to be very, very hard. It took us, 15 months or so to figure it out and to basically commit suicide, corporate suicide with our startup, because we wasted an incredible amount of effort, time, energy, and money down a path that we didn't understand, and we made some really rookie mistakes because of it and lost an incredible amount of energy and time. And that's the only resource you don't have. You can always go and raise more money, but you can't go and raise more time. Time is the most useful, the most crucial, the most limited resource you have as a startup. So you have to be very, very careful with it. You have to value it incredibly. You have to understand that these, let's run a couple of quick experiments and figure out what works and what doesn't work. That framework of thinking will not apply well in the enterprise world, right? So be careful with it. All right, so that's enough of warnings and sharing some of the critical points of views in that world with you. I hope that I can serve you with this. This is not about discouraging you to go down the enterprise world. I know a lot of founders that did and do so very, very successfully. That might be the best thing for you and your company. I just want you to be aware what you're committing yourself to. I want you to avoid some really stupid mistakes that I've made and other founders are making every single day. And if we've accomplished that with this video, then we made the world a better place, and then I'm glad for it. If you have anything to add to the discussion or to some of the points that I shared, please just leave it in the comments. If you haven't yet, please make sure to go to blog.closer.io and subscribe to our blog twice a week. Highly tactical and strategic advice on startups, B2B, and sales. And if you ever want to chat with me personally, just shoot me an email at stelly@closer.io. Always happy to hear from other founders. Now let's go and get them.